Frank Klose covers the Phillies. His mailbag is up right now at 97.3 ESPN.com, but we got a lot to get into before we look at some mailbag questions. One, Phillies make a trade today. They get reliever David Hale, not the reporter David Hale. It's the pitcher David Hale. They could be shopping for more, Frank, and tell us a little bit about this deal, where Hale kind of fits in. I mean, is he a guy that's really helped with this bullpen, or is this just, hey, we got to show the fans we're doing something?
Well, Hale's been pretty decent lately for the New York Yankees. I actually saw when he got designated, I thought, he's somebody who could help the Phillies. But you know what? They were able to work out a trade. They didn't have to wait for a waiver claim. I think it's a pickup that's helpful. He had a 3 ERA in his 5 appearances so far. Certainly that's better than pretty much everybody in the bullpen except Jose Alvarez, who might be in a little pain right now. So I definitely think it's a good pickup. Clearly, by the reports out there, they might be looking at a Brandon Workman trade, for example. Though there's no reports that that's close, but clearly the Phillies know that they need to do something.
Yeah, there's no question they need to do something. Yesterday, they're up 7-0. They can't hold that. Vince Velasquez, again, on the mound. I mean, not all his fault, but just kind of a microcosm. As he pitches, gets a 7-0 lead, he can't stay in the game. I mean, is the Velasquez thing, is it because they don't have another option, or do they just think that he's better than we do?
No, they don't have a better option. In fact, I was kind of annoyed that Velasquez had actually said, like, well, I earned this spot in the rotation. I said, but really the answer is no. You're the only guy left. I mean, Nick Pivetta has clearly pitched himself out of contention for that role, and right now he's the 6th starter, and they're going to need 6. They might even need a 7th when they get to that crazy week in September. But you know, they just had to get more out of him in that game. And they tried to push him a little further, and that's when he got into a little bit of trouble. And then, of course, Brogdon comes in and makes it actually worse. So it's a really tough spot for Joe Girardi right now. And even after the game, he basically said, "Hey, look, if people were asking him, well, do you need some other relievers?" He basically just said, "Well, look, it's my job to try to work with what I have, and what he has is clearly not good enough."
Well, it almost seems like it's not even fixable, right? I mean, all these teams, because of the expanded playoffs, they think they're in it still, and no one's going to be trading anything. And, like, the move today, okay, it's a move, but it's not something that really fixes this bullpen. Like, I just feel like this is what it is this season.
Well, it has to be more than this, obviously. I mean, you really need David Hale plus another arm. Now, if they can pull off a deal for Workman, I don't know if they can. I mean, there were still reports today. Matt Gelb wrote in The Athletic that the Phillies weren't willing to spend money on it, which they're going to have to. I mean, but Brandon Workman is an actual decent bullpen arm who can pitch at the back end. He saved a bunch of games last year, got a bunch of holds. So they need to add an impact bullpen arm, and then they need other complementary pieces that will help. Ranger Suarez coming back, adding David Hale, adding Brandon Workman per se. That's going to be that might be enough to sort of level it out. But I mean, right now, if the Phillies are talking about Brandon Workman and that's out there, I'm sure there's a million other GMs out there right now that are going to pick up the phone and call the Red Sox and say, "Oh, so you're going to trade Brandon Workman? We want in on that." I mean, because let's face it, there's a lot of bullpens right now that are overworked during this season and a lot of holes on a lot of teams. So if the Phillies are going to have to get somebody like Workman, they're going to have to pay a high price. I don't know what that's going to be right now. I mean, this is a free agent to be. It's a really hard landscape to make a trade. That's absolutely right, Hunter. And I think that the Phillies, if they're going to land somebody like that, you're going to have to trade somebody of value. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Addison Russ is a nice piece. He's an up-and-comer. You thought that he might help the Phillies someday. You saw him a little bit in even the summer camp action. But they probably paid too much for David Hale. But they're going to pay even more when you get the bigger named arms that you're going to need. And the question is going to come down to this: are you willing to waste the season or not? And according to John Middleton, they're losing a lot of money this year to make baseball happen. And if you're going to lose all that money and have nothing to show for it, I think that's a real disappointment. So they may have to swallow hard and pay the high price to bring in a better reliever.
Yeah, I do agree with you with the trade today, by the way. Was not a big fan. I feel like at that point you just actually bring up Addison Russ himself and give him an opportunity. But I want to get your thoughts on Spencer Howard, who pitched yesterday in the first game. I think this was his best outing. You can argue that, I almost said Gabe Kapler. Wow, Joe Girardi pulled him too early. But he went 3 2/3. That 97-mile-per-hour fastball with the movement was just nasty. What was your thoughts on Spencer Howard yesterday?
No, I thought he looked good, and I tend to agree with you. I think that he should have stayed out longer. I mean, the Phillies can't afford to, especially in a doubleheader when you have Vince Velasquez pitching the second game. You really can't afford to go to that bullpen so soon, and you saw the effects of it. I mean, they couldn't bring guys back for game two. I mean, it's just not going to happen right now. That you're not going to bring guys back for a second game in a day, and I think he looks pretty good, and I think you just need to let him loose. I mean, that's what I really want to see. I want to see him work through some jams. I want to see him deal with a little bit of adversity on the mound. So it seems like right now, the moment that there's a challenging situation, they pull him out because they're keeping the pitch counts down and building him up. But he didn't pitch in March. When I left Florida, which was probably just about a week before the shutdown, he hadn't thrown a pitch yet. I mean, I just seen him work. I saw him work out on some of the backfields. I think he finally made an appearance before things got shut down. He's not somebody that's been overly taxed so far. So, I mean, I would like to see him go out there and he gets a couple runners on in the fourth inning. Let him work through it. Even if he gives up a couple runs, he's got to learn. He's got to learn on the job. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about this season, and the best way to do it is by doing it. So I think he's looking good. I think he'll if allowed, he'll go deeper in games. He'll be stronger as he goes, and you need him to be his best, and he's got great stuff. And right now, I think that if you can get him going with Arrieta being so up and down, Eflin so far striking out a lot but throwing a lot of pitches, I love Vince Velasquez. You need that third deeper arm in the rotation, and it's got to be him, but you got to let him do it.
Right now, Jim Salisbury tweeting the Phillies are in active talks with the Red Sox to acquire closer Brandon Workman. Not final, but multiple players are involved in a proposed deal. He followed that tweet up just 2 minutes ago by basically saying that it looks like the deal is going to get done. So it looks like they might get two arms in the same day here. So we could be.
That's a big ad.
Right. He said, first Hale, now a deal for Workman in the works. Phillies are getting after it. Now, Salisbury was pretty critical of the team yesterday about how embarrassing it was for this team. And you wonder how demoralizing that 7-0 loss was for this team, falling to 9-12 with, you only got 39 games left.
And you know what? This is going to be Matt Klentak's legacy. I have a piece I'm working on, which, of course, is shifting as the Phillies keep acquiring relievers, but basically he could lose his job. I'm not the kind of guy who did this last night during the game. I'm not the kind of guy to just say, fire the GM every time something bad happens. I know some people have that knee-jerk reaction sometimes, especially in Philadelphia. But this is historically bad, and he's got to do something because, you already changed the manager. And even Joe Girardi, who's widely respected, is throwing his arms in the air saying, I've got what I've got. Well, you better get better than that. And adding Workman would be a very helpful because, if Hector Neris, it turns out it's Hector Neris of 2018 and not 2019, you need somebody who can close games, and Brandon Workman can close games for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking Neris yesterday to get a 5-out save just because he's clearly the only guy you trust, and, of course, his defense lets him down in that situation. Frank Klose covers the Phillies, 97.3 ESPN.com. His mailbag, which goes out on Tuesdays. We had so much happen we had a Flyers game on Tuesday, and some of the theme of that was the bullpen, and obviously it looks like they're looking to add to that bullpen now. I want to ask you about Alec Bohm and kind of what you've seen from him so far and what this means for Scott Kingery moving forward.
Well, Alec Bohm, I think he's impressed everybody. Most part, his defense has been pretty good, and the fact that he's come up with such poise, that second game, he almost tied the game with that ball off the wall. So the fact that he could come up with a big hit like that at a big time, I think that's very promising. He's locked in, he's poised, and he's doing his thing. So I think this is this is somebody you want in your lineup every day. I know he's still adjusting to the league. Again, somebody who's skipped over AAA, much like Spencer Howard. So you're on the job training right now. But, I think the nice thing about the Phillies setup right now is they do have extra pieces. They can mix and match. They can move people around. You get Adam Hastley healthy again, and then, that does help too, because then you can give Bohm a day off easier if Kingery is sort of your extra guy, or Segura is moving around, or there's a lot of options. I think that's the nice thing about this Phillies offense right now. Is they have options. They have versatile players. Jay Bruce can come in and play left, play first base. He can DH. Segura can play third, second, and short. And that just makes it so much more comfortable for the Phillies to ease what they need to. But so far, he has not given them a reason to do so. So I think that at the end of the day, the ones that are playing the best will play the most. And Kingery, unfortunately for him, had the rough start with battle with COVID and then trying to catch up to everybody. I'm not one who wants to give up on him, but this is a short season. They're trying to win a division. His day could still come, but I think you go with the hot hand here, and that's playing Bohm, and that's making sure Phil Gosselin is in the game too, whether it's second base, left field, DH, wherever you can possibly put him. So Phillies are in a good spot right now, at least offensively, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're making these relief moves, because that's the hole that they have on this team. And now that Alec Bohm is there, you have even more offensive options to an already strong offense. So yeah, to the point as we were opening, Bryce Harper being out of the lineup, I think they can withstand that for a day. But I guess you can't. I guess you can't play him every day. But I wouldn't be shocked if he pinch hits at some point.
Last one. When you look at the playoff hopes, Patrick wanted to know this 7-game trip, which got off to an awful start. You had 2 games you're winning late. You blow them both. But he wants to know if this 7-game road trip are the playoffs on the line with this trip.
I don't know about this trip, but they got to do something against the Atlanta Braves for sure, especially now, especially after losing those two. You have your top 2 pitchers going during this series, so I think that's a good thing. Any series where you play Nola and Wheeler, you're in great shape. So I'm not that impressed by the Braves, and they've had their issues with their starting pitching. Mike Foltynewicz, Sean Newcomb. Both of them ended up having to be removed from the rotation. They've never gotten Cole Hamels going. He may never throw a pitch for the Braves, which is interesting considering they were going to sign the $18 million deal and have nothing to show for it, even though they're not paying all 18. And Ronald Acuna Jr. is on the injured list at the moment. So Phillies can take advantage of that right now and make sure that they creep closer to the Braves. And I think this division is very, very winnable. Once you add these relievers and kind of fill your biggest hole on the job, they're kind of sitting pretty. I mean, National Steven Strasburg's been out. He might have carpal tunnel. They don't have Anthony Rendon anymore. The Nationals' whole infielder, ex-Phillies, middle infielder bench bats. So I think there's an opportunity if they can get this bullpen together to win the division. And today, if they do indeed close in on that deal with Workman, I think that's something which could make quite the difference. And as we said, the starting pitching can be good enough, especially at the front end, and the offense is. I think this is a very winnable division, even though today you're not going to, based upon those 2 losses, you might not be feeling good. But you sort of reset with your ace today. I think this is a time where they can build some momentum. If they can definitely take the Braves for 2 out of 3, that's a good start. Ideally, you can sweep, but who knows? Maybe the team will feel rejuvenated by these additions, because, as you were saying, these losses were demoralizing against the Blue Jays in Buffalo, but the division's there. They can win this.
By the way, Jose Alvarez said it hurt pretty bad. It hit me in the private parts. It's a pain that's hard to describe. That was like watching the Phillies game yesterday. It's a microcosm. But he says he's okay. Don't know if he's going to pitch today, but he said everything was good in the hospital. So good stuff. All right, Frank Klose, 97.3 ESPN.com, at Frank Klose with a K. on Twitter. His mailbag every Tuesday. We gave it to you today on a Friday because the Phillies lost last night. It was just unbelievable to look at. And keep our eye on with the website, 973ESPN.com, as the Phillies are in trade talks with the Red Sox. They could have another bullpen arm by the end of the day. Frank, enjoy the weekend, man.
You too, guys.
All right, Frank Klose, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.